Alright. Since I gotta wait for new strings to come, but I still want to record videos, it's gonna be slightly different videos for just a little bit. So yeah, like, basically just talking videos like this until, like, maybe a little bit of bass videos, but until I get new strings for my guitar and restring them and stuff. And I'll probably still do videos like this anyways. I'll just pretty much do whatever I find fun. But yeah, so this video, for example, is about basically my thoughts and opinions of goals, wants, and needs. Basically, like how I use them in day-to-day life, right? So my opinion on goals is literally just things you plan to do, right? I can use a few examples, like I'll use a marathon example for this, okay, for all three. Okay, so let's say let's give 3 examples of a marathon goal. My goal is to become the first to complete the marathon. My goal is to not be the last to complete the marathon. My goal is to at least complete the marathon, right? So goals can be to do something, to not do something, or to at least do something, right? So it could also be to continue doing something, right? Like my goal is to continue doing more marathons, right? And for each one, they would have needs to complete them. Needs are just tools or steps that you have to do to complete your goal, right? So for example, a need to do a marathon, right? A need to do a marathon is to have a marathon to do. Is to at least have legs, unless if you're doing a Paralympics one. But let's just say it's a regular one. Well, you'll need legs, you'll need a marathon to do, and you'll need energy to do the marathon, right? And wants are things that bring you pleasure or make it easier, right? Basically, it brings you pleasure during your goal, right? So for example, a want would be the marathon being, you know where the marathon is, right? You know the location. You can plan for the location. The weather being good for the marathon. You having plenty of energy, right? You know other people. You have friends where you can run the marathon with, right? Those are all wants, but they're not needs to complete the marathon. They're not needs to do the marathon, right? And then, like, it changes drastically if it's you want to become the first one to complete the marathon. Well, then what do you need? Well, you need to be in the best shape of your, you need to be in the best shape you can be for the marathon. You need to be better than everyone else to be the first in the marathon. You need to be able to complete it as quick as possible, or at least quicker than others, right? You see all these needs and then things you might want. You might want to know the location. You might want to have the best morning routine, the best night routine, the best training regime, and all that, but that's not technically needed. You can run a marathon against a bunch of toddlers and become number one, right? You might want certain things to make it easier, but it doesn't make it so it has to happen, right? A need is something that is needed or something that has to happen for you to complete your goal. For example, the last one, some needs to not be the final person to complete the marathon would be you need to at least be better than one person, right? So you have to be at least better than one person in the marathon. You have to, and then like other things, you have to have legs, you have to have energy, you have to complete the marathon is a big one, right? You have to be able to complete the marathon. So some goals might be able to be needs in other goals, right? Without being the complete goal, right? And then you might want to not be the second to last. You might want to be like, hey, it would be really cool if I was, in the middle of the pack, maybe even in the top 5. But as long as I'm not the last one, that's my goal. But it would be nice, and I'd want to be able to not just be the second to last, right? But that is not a necessary need to not be last. And then continue doing marathons, something you need is marathons to do, more marathons to do. You need to have legs and energy to do them. You need to be able to find and start and sign up for these marathons. But things that you might want to do is you might want the multiple marathons for you to continue doing them to be in your town, in your city, close to you. You might want to have good weather to do all of them. You might want to have constant victories, or at least constant affirmation, to continue doing them, because you might feel better. Hey, the further I get up, the better I feel, the more I like to do them. But that's not a need to continue doing them. And then, like I said, wants are just things that you want, right? And then a goal can usually be a want, and a want can end up being a need. For example, my goal is to get chips. Why? Because I want chips. So something I need to have is to know what type of chips I want, right? So you can see how they can sort of interchange. And then an example is with life. Let's say I have a goal of living one more year. I want to live another year. So I have a goal of one more year. Well, then something I need is sustenance for at least that year, water for at least that year, and to be breathing for at least that year, right? Those are things that I need. Now, things I might want is comfortable clothing. I might want to be healthy. I might want to taste good food, eat good tasting food. I might want clean, healthy water. But those are not things that I need to complete my goal. But I want to live at least a year. And my needs are things that I need to complete that goal. And now the reason why I use this throughout my life is, well, I can set goals, or, set up plans that I want to do. And then I need to set needs, things that are the bare minimum to accomplish these goals. And then wants, and whether these wants will interfere with my needs. For example, with that marathon, if I need to not be the final person, to, last person in place, but I don't want to train at all, and my want is interfering with my need to complete my goal. So then I need to stop that want from being accomplished, and I need to complete that need to complete my goal. Unless if I want to do sabotage, but let's just say that's not in the table. Or then they can sort of be hard to accomplish, like they sort of interfere, but you can still complete them. For example, let's say I don't want, my goal is to not be last. So I need to train every day, but I don't want to train in the morning or in the afternoon. Well, then I can train at night, but I need to make sure I'm at least training every day. So you can see how not wanting to train in the morning or afternoon might impede it, but it doesn't make it impossible to do. But it might be better to, eliminate that want, so it makes it easier and actually more pleasurable for me to train, more pleasurable or easier to train every day, which sort of makes it so a want can override another want. But yeah, for example, let's say here, I want to complete my trade. I want to complete my diploma, right? And I'm saying want, but these are also goals. Remember, wants are goals, can be goals, right? So I want to complete my trade. I want to complete my diploma. I want to get my driver's license, right? So what are the needs I need to do? Well, I need to be going through trade at a correct, fast pace. I need to stay in the program long enough to complete my trade. I need to stay in the program long enough to complete school. I need the program to be up long enough for me to complete my trade, my school, my diploma, right? My driver's license. Things that I would want is good tasting food. Things that I would want is a comfortable atmosphere to learn in. Things that I would want is clean clothes, clean water, soap, be able to do things in the time that I want and have fun and good sleep and things like that. But those are not things that I need to accomplish my goals. So those are things it so I can accomplish my goals. For example, one of my goals and things that I want to do is upload videos because I find them enjoyable. So I like to do it. So what do I need to do? I need to set time aside to record videos. I need ideas like this to record videos. I need to be able to be flexible, for example, when strings on my guitar break. Well, then I need to be open-minded to do other types of videos. I need to be able to do, to record. I need to be able to upload things that I'd want to be able to do. I want to be able to set aside time to edit, but I can't. Not when I have to also accomplish my other goals, right? So I don't want my want to record my videos might impede me completing all of my schooling and stuff like that. So I can't do YouTube as much as I want to, but since I want to do YouTube enough, I'm finding a way to fit it in. I'm finding a way to fit it in at nighttime. If I'm not doing it in the morning and in the afternoon, then I'm fitting it into that nighttime, right? So these are different ways that I just, use my goals, wants, and needs to accomplish what I want to do in my life, my goals in my life. You gotta remember your goals are just things you plan to do. So then your needs are just steps or tools that you have to use to complete your goals. And your wants are things that make it easier or more pleasurable, or are other goals that you want to do in your life along with that. Not all goals interconnect, but since they're part of your life, they still affect each other. Sort of the equivalent of, let's say you have two shows in the same universe, right? Like two cartoons in the same universe. Let's say, man, I gotta think of some. Let's say you got shows like Burn Notice and Bones. I don't know if any of you guys know what I'm talking about, but Bones, just a quick review, is like a show where this lady and this dude are, the dude's from the FBI, the lady's from forensics something. She studies bones, right? And they work together to solve crimes. And Burn Notice is about a CIA scientist who, CIA spy, not scientist, CIA spy that was burned. Basically, he was set up and he wants to clear his name, right? Both of them don't have any super powers or anything that makes it so they can't live in the same universe, right? But they can be separate because one is in Miami and the other is usually in Washington or in other states, but not usually in Miami. And they have completely different parts of the government that they deal with most of the time. And so they can both be doing their stuff at the same time and not be affecting each other, but they're still in the same world, so they still can affect each other. So that's how goals are. Goals can be completely separate and not have any way to affect each other, but since they're part of you, part of your goals, part of your life, they can affect each other. And there's always that chance and possibility that they can affect each other. So you also got to remember that. At least that's what I try to do. Remember, hey, my goal of getting chips can affect my goal of living further in life because I might spend $20, $25 buying 5 bags of chips. And now that $20, $25 that I could have spent maybe in some other part of life, maybe saving up for rent, has now been impeded. Right? But I can also think, hey, getting these chips really brings me pleasure and a want, and that want can be part of a need for my mental health to continue completing through trade in school, because sometimes it's not the best. So you also got to think, hey, you got physical needs to complete your goals, but you also got mental needs to complete your goals. Like with that marathon, if you're just training every morning, every afternoon, hey, some people are just built like that, but some people aren't. Sometimes you got to take a break. Sometimes maybe it's not taking a break, but you got to change it up, switch it up. Hey, I've been running a marathon I've been running this 5, 10, 15 miles every morning, and now I got to switch it up because it's getting boring, it's getting hard to do, it's getting I'm making myself lethargic. Now, of course, just because something's getting boring doesn't mean you shouldn't stop. Doesn't mean you should stop, but if you can switch it up, make it more enjoyable to do, that might be part of a want, but it can also become a need for your mental health, so you can continue completing your goal, right? Sometimes it's good to get a raise that helps your mental health, but sometimes it's just better to take a vacation or take a break. Sometimes you're like, hey, I need a raise, and that will help boost, yourself, be like, hey, now I can spend a little bit more here, or hey, now I can save a little bit more here, and I don't need to feel so tight making ends meet. But then sometimes you're like, hey, I'm just feeling so much pressure and goals and mental pain that I just need to take a break. Sometimes a good example is, let's say you're making $5K a month, but you barely see your kids. You're completing everything financially, and you have the goals of staying alive. Your goals of still living for now, your goals of being in a comfortable house, your goals of having water, food, but you're working, 12, 15 hours a day, right? Your body's slowly deteriorating, your mental space is slowly deteriorating. You're working 13 tens and then 14 eights, right? Or 13 tens and 4 eights, right? 14, let's see, I said 15, so 14 fives, right? You're barely seeing your kids, you're working yourself down to the bone, but your goal is working. You don't have to feel so tight making ends meet. But sometimes with some goals, you also need to think about, hey, my want over here that I thought was a want is actually a need for my mental stability, for my familial connections, for my actual want to stay alive. Because if I'm doing this goal to stay alive, remember, a goal is a want. You should want to stay alive, right? So like if your goal, like let's say you don't ever do anything for fun, right? You're always saving up money. You're never buying anything past the bare minimum for food. You're never spending anything past the bare minimum that you need to stay alive. Well, you're completing your goal. Remember, your goal to stay alive. But remember, a goal is a want. So do you want to stay alive? Because if you don't want to stay alive, then you need to switch up how you're approaching your goal of staying alive, right? Because if you stay alive for 40 years, but you don't feel like you're alive at all, you don't want to be alive at all, you don't feel like you've lived, then maybe it's better to live 20, maybe even 2 years than not be alive for 20, 40 years just because you're trying to accomplish your goals. So you got to remember, your goals are always able to be interchangeable. Your goals are a want. If you don't want to do your goal, well, that's different than being bored or having a hard time doing your goal, right? Because you want to be alive, then you still have that goal of being alive. If you're like, man, I want to be alive, but I'm struggling, doing this is boring, you could still push through that. But if you're like, man, do I want to be alive? Then that's when you should start switching up your needs, switching up what you feel is your steps and tools to accomplish your goal, because you got to remember, you got to have that thriving want to be alive, right? Another example is freedom. I want to be free of these laws and rules, so I don't care what the rules say, and then you go to prison, and then you got more complex, harder rules to go through. So then maybe your goal of freedom can still be encaged in the laws, so you don't lose more of your freedom, right? And so that's sort of how I see it as well. And yeah, sorry, I could ramble on for hours. But yeah, that's the video of goals, needs, wants, and how I see they affect life and everything. So yeah, if y'all liked it, like the video. If y'all want to see more of this, well, I'll probably upload more videos like this, so subscribe if you want. But really, what I need y'all to do is tell me in the comments your opinions on this, like whether you like these videos like this, or whether you want to see more videos like guitar, which I can't do right now, but I can definitely, like, I literally was gonna record another guitar solo that sounds really cool. Just because, you know, I saw a comment being like, hey, like with a bunch of editing, this could be like Metallica stuff, right? And I'm like, oh, dude, I actually have a song. Like in my head, I was like, oh, I actually have a song that sounds even closer to that. That sounds just as good as Bloody Bad, like the instrumental. So I'll record that, and then the strings are broken. I'm like, ah, man. I have to wait. But yeah, so if I see your comments on what you do like, or what you don't like, or if I see a lot of likes on a video, like for example, I see my Care and Respect Explained is getting a lot of views, it's not getting a lot of likes. So even though I know I have a goal of completing, you know, my Care and Respect series, I'm not that pushed, or wasn't that pushed to do it until my guitar strings broke, and I'm gonna record it anyways. But like compared to, you know, Bloody Bed that got a lot of likes and got, you know, comments, I'm more pushed to do that just because, you know, I want to do things that other people enjoy as well. That's part of the goal here, is making YouTube videos, but also making connections with others. So yeah, if y'all like this, you know, literally like it, it shows me that you do, and comment about what you do like or what you don't like, and it will affect how I upload. But yeah, that's about it.